Welcome back. 20 years ago next week, a bomb exploded on Air India Flight 182, killing all of the 329 people aboard. An Ottawa man who lost his wife and 2 children struggled for years with his grief. But Dr. Chandra, as he's known, has since started a foundation in his family's honor. It includes a school, a hospital, both in southern India. And he runs them with very little financial help. The CBC's Terry Molesky has his story.
This is the story of a ray of light which has fallen on an impoverished place. We are in southern India, the state of Andhra Pradesh. It is the rice bowl of a huge and fast-growing nation of 1 billion. And yet, for those who plant the rice and cut the sugarcane, India's economic resurgence is a distant concept. In fact, outside the cities, little has changed for the 75 million people of Andhra Pradesh. In these villages, most people cannot even read and write. And their children can expect no better. Schools are primitive, and a life under the blazing sun with a poor diet means that millions of people end up crippled by blindness. It is fate, they say. It's always been this way. But fate can change. It has for Adi Lakshmi. She is 7 years old and she's getting ready for school in Kakinada, a rural backwater where a decent education and basic health care are things to dream about. Adi's family doesn't have much. A few chickens, a couple of water buffaloes. And if Adi were like millions of other kids in rural India, school wouldn't be much to look forward to. And as she sets off with a friend, Adi Lakshmi walks right past the sleepy government school where students graduate barely able to read and write. These students have somewhere else to go, a school with much higher standards than that. They have come to a school which is for them the chance of a lifetime. It was founded by a former government scientist from Ottawa named Chandrasekhar Sankurathri, known here as Dr. Chandra.
I needed purpose for my life. I want to do something useful with my life. So that's why I quit my job in Canada.
Dr. Chandra's skin is strangely bleached by a disorder called vitiligo, often blamed on stress. And of that, he's had more than his share. The story begins on the other side of the world. On the day his wife and children left Canada for a vacation on Air India's Flight 182 to London.
Air India 1827. Air India 182.
It was a bomb placed by Sikh separatists. 329 lives were lost. Dr. Chandra's wife and his 2 children were among them, and he was left wondering what the point of his own life was. He kept thinking about his wife Manjari's concern for the poor in her home state of Andhra Pradesh. So he came back here to her neighborhood, Kakinada, and set up a school named for his lost daughter, Sarada. The Sarada school represents a ticket out of poverty for these kids, and there's no fooling around at morning assembly. And as the school day unfolds underneath the huge mango trees of Kakinada, you get a sense of what education means to these kids. Ask them how many have parents who cannot read and write. Most of the hands go up. For themselves, they have bigger ambitions.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Teacher.
English teacher.
English teacher.
Doctor.
Doctor.
Doctor. Doctor. Doctor. Teacher. Doctor. Police. Teacher.
Doctor.
Social teacher.
Doctors, teachers, they want to be useful.
Thank you all very much.
Welcome, sir.
Best of all, this school is free. It doesn't get a dime from the government or the parents. It is funded entirely by charitable donations raised by Dr. Chandra.
They don't come on a school bus. They
No.
come on your bus.
That's right. There are no school buses here. School bus is our bus for them.
So everything you provide,
Yes.
meals,
Yeah.
the
Transportation,
uniforms,
yeah.
transportation, books,
Yeah.
everything.
Everything. Yeah.
This is lunchtime. Some of these kids got little or no breakfast, but nobody's eating until everything's all lined up perfectly. Nobody's talking either, and they still don't eat until they've said their prayers. This is known as the Brahma Pranam. It's in Sanskrit, not in the local Telugu, and it's a traditional prayer giving thanks for the food. And no wonder they seem to mean it. This may be the only decent meal some of these children get today. And when they finally do eat, silence reigns. It's a monastic atmosphere.
They are quiet at meal times. They're very well behaved. You run a very tight ship.
Yes. We
Why
do.
is that?
Unless we impart a discipline, I don't think we can bring the best out of any kid.
Behind Dr. Chandra's mild manners, there is some steel. Still, when the former biologist teaches his science class, you see a little of what he might have been like as a father. And you see the kids responding. He says he can't ever get his own lost children out of his mind, but this helps.
The way I do now here, every time I see a children, I always remember my children. It gives me joy to see children like that.
You would forgive him for being well satisfied to see so many children launched into a better life, but he's not. In fact, right from the start, Dr. Chandra planned to achieve much more. And so it is that long past school hours, Dr. Chandra's school bus is still at work, collecting new passengers. They are the blind and the half-blind, crippled by cataracts in their eyes. 100 of them emerge slowly into a strange world, a bustling eye hospital. They've come from remote villages where an ophthalmologist is almost unheard of. And Dr. Chandra's team is going to restore their sight overnight. They have come to the Sri Kiran Institute of Ophthalmology. It's named for the 6-year-old boy, Dr. Chandra's son from Ottawa, who died in the Air India bombing of 1985. And that name, Sri Kiran, means God's ray of light. A light is shining now on Danikonda Reddy. He is a watchman, a blind watchman. Thick cataracts have developed in his eyes, and for a year now he's been finding his way around with a stick. He's just one of 150 patients here on this day, and one of millions in India. This country has about a quarter of all the world's blind people, a fact blamed on genetics, on the burning sun, and on vitamin deficiencies. But as Dr. Chandra patrols the crowded hallways of his hospital, you don't hear him complaining that there's just too many. Patients are shepherded through a round of eye exams. Here you can see the cataract in his eye. And there's some form filling with the help of Dr. Chandra's staff. They are local people who get training, a small salary, and room and board. They're quite used to patients who don't know how to sign their names, and who must mark their consent form for cataract surgery with a thumbprint. At first, it looks pretty much like any hospital as the surgeon scrubs before going to work. But Western experts say getting good really doesn't do justice to the extraordinary speed and the high quality of the surgery that is done here at the Sri Kiran Institute. Partly that is due to the large staff backing up the doctor. But still, 150 surgeries a day is 10 times as many as a surgeon will do in the West, and it comes at a fraction of the price. Dr. Gunter, for example, who's one of 5 ophthalmologists here, is paid about $1,500 a month. And she really does work on each patient for 3 minutes or less. Then it's off with the used gloves, on with the new, and while one patient is under the knife, another is being led out, another is on his way in. It's a highly choreographed assembly line. Cataract surgery is a life-changing experience, whatever country you're in. But it still inspires awe to see its impact on people who couldn't possibly pay for it and who otherwise would be condemned to darkness for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, he says now he can go back to work because he can see.
Yesterday's mood of anxiety is melting away.
I'm seeing so well, that's why I'm smiling, he's saying.
Danikonda Reddy, the blind watchman we saw before the surgery, is also one of those now seeing again.
I can work as long as I want now because I can see 2 grandsons, grandchildren. So he'll be able to see them again, that's what he's saying.
It's amazing to see their reactions. It's really gratifying to see that satisfaction, the feeling on their faces, elderly people, you know. Those who thought they reached the end of their life, end of the tunnel.
Now Danikonda Reddy gets his final check before going home. Already he can read most of the numbers, and his sight will improve further in the days to come. Other men are crowding round to say it worked.
They could not work before. Now they can happily work because they can see better.
In the next room is Nagama, a washerwoman whose right eye was beyond repair, but her left eye has been saved.
She can see everything. You can see all the colors.
150 lives have changed overnight, and it didn't cost much. The high volume of cases and the low salaries all bring the cost of each cataract surgery way down to about $50, which compares with about $3,000 in North America. And Dr. Chandra's one-man war on blindness is moving so fast now that he has done 95,000 cataract surgeries. Add to that about 500,000 outpatients who have come here for other eye problems, like glaucoma. And it's all funded by donations from Dr. Chandra's network around the world. A little from the Indian government, a little from charities like Help the Aged, and a little from CEDA, the Canadian aid agency.
So far, luckily, I should say, there was not a single day we stopped the work for lack of money.
Still, the subject of money doesn't seem to interest him much. What seems to matter to him instead is that the memory of his wife and children be honored and that their names live on.
Still, even till today, after 20 years, still the back of my mind always, you know, there's never a question of forgetting that. You can't erase those memories. They are forever there.
Do you even care anymore about the trial, what the result is? Do you read the news?
No,
You're not interested.
I'm not interested. Only thing is, if ever I face them, I want to ask them why they did it. If they have a consciousness, they should feel it. Otherwise, it doesn't bother me at all.
To the others who lost loved ones, he says, move on.
Forget and forgive, and you get on with your life. Don't be, vengeful, and you want to see that, somebody should get punished. And by doing so, we are so preoccupied in that, and we cannot do anything in life. 20 years has gone by. If I didn't do that, sitting there waiting for something to happen for those criminals, what did I achieve in life? Nothing, right?
Day after day in his corner of India, Chandrasekhar Sankurathri is changing a seemingly unchangeable history of illiteracy and blindness. This is Terry Malevsky in Kakinada, India.